What's up? What's going on? It's a podcast. I'm Artie Lang.
And you can get those fucking porn stars.
We ready?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
$500, they'll do anything.
Yeah.
Joe Matarese conducting his own interview. Artie Lang Uncensored Podcast. We're on the air. Hey, Robert Iler's here, man. He became a friend of the DirecTV show. He's a good guy. AJ Soprano, obviously, but he's a big poker player now. He's got an interesting life, and he's a guy that I admire. I appreciate you coming. What's up, Robert?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, listen, I probably heard every minute you ever did on Stern.
Really?
I don't think I ever missed, because it was once you got to Sirius, you could rewind.
Right.
And I would never miss, like OCD style. I would just, if I would go back, I'd pause. I would to make sure I just heard, I couldn't not listen.
Wow, that's an interesting way to listen to a radio show, because you hear all the subtle shit that goes on. Howard used to miss shit, and it was funny.
I used to say to people, like, when people would listen to Stern and be like, "Oh, I love it. I listen once a week." I'd be like, "You don't even get 75% of the stuff they're saying."
You get mad at people.
like high pitch mic jokes, and people would be like, "Oh yeah, I know high pitch Eric," and I'm like, "No," I would get like annoyed.
Another high pitch.
Right.
Do you listen now? Are you what are your thoughts of it now with the fans, with the politically correct stuff, and like, do you have thoughts on that, or you don't care?
No, I mean, I love Howard.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things where, like, I would just never say anything where that was like,
derogatory.
Yeah.
It's a good move.
I just what he's done. He's the best.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Well, sometimes, because I don't listen as much anymore, just because it's kind of painful a little bit sometimes to think of what I would say if I was there.
I never liked the celebrity interviews.
You did, so you're the direct opposite of what people say, where they love the interviews and they.
I never liked the interviews. I mean, the interviews are great, but I'm saying I didn't listen for that. I listened for, like, Ronnie the limo driver.
Right, and that's what hardcore fans like the most.
That was the greatest, to me, greatest stuff ever.
Do you feel that there's less of that now? I mean,
I think there is. I think there's less of it.
Well, I know, because Howard, I think.
But I think when you do 3 days a week instead, right? That's what he's doing now. 3
I
days
guess
a week.
so,
I'm sure
yeah.
he's losing 8 hours a week or whatever it is, but
I think he's the only guy who's ever become an A-list celebrity from the radio. Like, he's a celebrity, like he shows up at a movie premiere, it's like Brad Pitt's there or something. That never happened in radio before.
Right.
And so he probably knows he could get these big stars now. And who else would you rather? I would rather hear Howard interview anybody like Jack Nicholson. Like, there's no other person, even a close second, that I'd rather hear interview a guy like that than Howard Stern.
No way, of course.
Yeah,
Not to mention he's the only person who has an hour.
Right. And he could really get into it.
Yeah.
So there's all the... by the way, Joe Matarese is here. What's up,
here.
Joe? How you doing?
I'm good.
I never missed a minute of the Nick and Artie show either.
Yeah, I know you were
all of it, like not 1 minute, literally.
I really appreciate that. It's hard. It's like, I could relate to you in a little bit, sort of a post-Sopranos life, a post-Howard Stern life for a comic is kind of the same thing, where a lot of people ask you about it, but you go on to other stuff, and you want to respect those people, but, you do want to go on and have a life,
Yeah.
And so you said you just got back into acting after a year, and it's sort of disenchanting a little bit now, because it's so much shit. You were saying you're making a good point about all the shit that YouTube, and it's too much stuff.
And I just honestly, I think working in New York compared to working in LA, like I did a TV show in LA,
right?
It's just so different. Like, and I don't know if it's because I'm home or because of this, but I just think the people in New York,
way different.
The lifestyle in New York, like I love everything about New York. I miss when I'm away from New York, I miss it more than I miss anything else I've ever known. Family, friends that like. I need New York.
Well, where were you living when you got the show? How old were you? Were you 12 years old when you got it?
12 years old. I was born and raised in Manhattan.
Okay.
So I lived in Manhattan my entire life.
And you were on the Upper West Side, Upper East Side?
Upper East Side, 83rd and 2nd. My grandfather was the super of a building over there.
And so while you shot the show, at least in the early days, you would commute from the Upper East Side to Jersey?
Well, Silver Cup usually, but if not, they had a van on like 43rd and 9th.
And they would pick you up, right?
Yeah.
Silver Cup is where you did all the stuff, like the interior stuff and all that.
Right.
And so, by the time you were a late teen, did you have your own place then? Well, like, when did you get your own place?
The day I turned 18, I was out. Yeah.
So right towards the end of the show, then.
Yeah, we finished the show when I was 22, so I still had 4 years of being.
I gotta tell you, man, it really, especially that last year, the suicide stuff. You really did a great job on that show, man.
Thank you.
It's very hard to go from 12 years old, and you were perfect as that kid too. To get to the, it's hard in life, but on a TV show to get to your late teens and early 20s and become good at that acting too. You got to become now that guy who's an adult, not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And they gave you real serious shit to handle. Like when you find out you're gonna go have all those scenes like the suicide stuff. Like, how do you handle it? How do you prepare for shit like that? Was it scary to you? I mean,
I honestly just hoped and prayed that sitting around watching Gandolfini and Edie Falco and all that stuff would pay off. And
they're two of the best actors in the history of television.
I think they're two of the best actors I've ever seen anywhere.
I agree.
I've never. It's very rare that you could see acting and go, well, that's a lot better than James Gandolfini.
You never could say that,
right? Yeah.
So you really would learn from them, which is smart.
I mean, there's so much stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I would just do that they would do that you don't even realize, like, with your parents, like, the way you scratch your eye or pick your nose, you do it just like your father,
Right, you got into it that way.
And,
makes sense, yeah.
I'll never forget, I got asked to do this show called, like, Dead Zone or something, and they're like, yeah, it's in Canada, and I was never an actor.
Right.
And I was just a kid
Let me tell you, that's a good point. If you didn't get this at 12 years old, do you think you would have grown out of acting and done something else in life?
I think, like, all my, 50% of my friends who I grew up with, I'd be selling drugs or being a bookie or, something.
Yeah, you grew up in New York in a neighborhood.
Yeah, I'd be a doorman or selling weed on the side.
You think you would have, in some ways, it saved your life from that life?
100%. Yeah. And listen, I could have done something normal maybe, but I don't see it because I'm not the type of guy who could sit somewhere 5 days a week for 8 hours and do the same job. I just can't do it.
Now, comedy was my savior. I mean, look, I was a longshoreman at the port in Newark in my early 20s. If I didn't get into comedy, I already was at a point where I was shit. Sorry. People like this part. It's stuttering John. Tell him not to kill me. John? John?
Yeah.
John, call back. I'm on the air. John?
Well, what out of
Stuttering John calling.
I just don't want to be an asshole.
He still got great timing. No, I already got to the point where I was, after 6 months working at the port, I was borrowing from a loan shark to pay a bookie. And all that would have happened if I didn't get into comedy. The bookie would have had to say to me just one day, look, you owe this much. If you run this money to this guy in Elizabeth, I'll take this much off. And then would have started right there. I would have been in jail.
Right.
So you're grateful for acting. You're grateful for going at 12 years old. And,
Sopranos is the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah,
period. Of course, it was.
Because as Joe and I, we started as comics, but when you want to act, talking to the mic, when you want to act, you always say, okay, what if I get into acting? What if I get on a hit show? What does that mean? What if I get on this type of show? Like 2.5 Men is a hit. 2.5 Men is a hit show, right?
Right.
But
unfortunately,
But what if you get on
somehow?
What if you get on an iconic show? Like a really, there's not many of them either.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? And, I really think that if I were you and I saw that last season where it's the last season with the suicide stuff, right?
I think so.
If I saw all that stuff, knowing how many people really watch this show, an Emmy Award winning show, and like you said, you're not even really that into acting. I would be scared to death to do stuff that serious, and you pulled it off. I mean,
I think saying I wasn't into acting isn't true, but it's more like up until Sopranos, I didn't give a shit about it.
Well, why did you start? Your parents get you into it or something?
I was walking on the street at 6 years old, and some
you got
guy
discovered, right?
Yeah,
okay.
He was like, "Yeah, you want to come audition for a couple things?" And I did, and I got some stuff, and then.
You got a couple of commercials?
Commercial, like Pizza Hut, AT&T, a couple things like that. And it was like, I was like the first person in my family to have a bank account. So it was like seeing this kind of money, like even $5,000 was unbelievable.
Unreal. What did your old man do?
He now is an engineer at Queens Center Mall.
There's my father too really didn't have a relationship with a bank. He never had a credit card. It was always cash. I remember when I started getting checks that were pretty big, I'd give them to my mother and I'd show them to her. And she really thought I was doing something else for the money,
right?
Than being on TV. And she goes, "What do you have to do for this money?"
Yeah,
that I was like running drugs to Mexico.
Yeah, we were bringing Sopranos check to like the check cashing place, like waiting online with like 40 people cursing, and they were like outside in the cold.
That's hilarious. So how many auditions do you go on at 12 years old? You get this audition for an HBO show. Pretty big audition to get. So you had a legit agent that got you in there, right?
Like you said, like, did you ever think about how many people watched? I think for me, it's the same anxiety of like 10 people are watching or 10 million. It's just the same thing to me. Like I never saw the difference there between that. Like I just would have anxiety either way.
Right.
You know,
well,
like
the scene in the pool where you find you and stuff. Like how many days does that take to shoot?
I think we did that in 2 days.
Because he's getting wet. Shooting something, you watch something. After you shoot a movie, you watch stuff totally different.
Yeah.
Like, I see he gets wet. And he's got to, then you got to change the fucking clothes.
Yeah.
It takes forever. So that took 2 full days.
Yeah. And then I started getting sick, because it was like the middle of January in
That
Jersey.
was January?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And then, you're dressed in like whatever. You're dressed in like warm clothes.
You're fucking wet.
You're tying yourself to a brick and like throwing it in and jumping in. And then James pulls you out and you lay there crying on the side of the thing. And then they're like, all right, now that was they barely even they were like, oh, that was terrible. Let's do it again. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was terrible.
Did Chase direct that episode?
No, I believe it was Timmy Van Patten.
Oh, he's directed a lot of them. He's clearly a talented guy. Was Chase on the set for something like that to sort of like watch over it, or you trusted Van Patten?
I can't remember. There's that day.
I can't believe that's January, man.
Yeah.
I thought maybe late summer.
It might have been December.
What did they do?
December or January.
What did they put hot water in the pool so you guys didn't die?
You know what's funny is, I'll never forget. So they had like a Navy SEAL guy or something underneath the tarp just in case I couldn't get up or I was drowning or whatever. And that guy came up for like some air and and I looked at him and I was like, oh, how is it? Blah, blah, blah. Before I jumped in, and he was like, it's cold, man.
A Navy SEAL.
Yeah, I was like, you can't tell me, whatever he did.
A Navy SEAL goes, it's bad.
Yeah, and I remember that and just being like, fuck. So I remember, you're like, wow, how was motivation for that scene? Like, well, it was the middle of December and I had to jump into a fucking,
Listen, so did you have a stunt double? Like there's a shots underwater of your leg tied to the cinder block?
A lot of that's me.
That you?
A lot of that's me. And then I think they did one thing for a stunt double where that they didn't get with me, where it was like, because it was real every time. I put the bag over my head, I tied a rubber band around it, I threw the brick in the water, and then you jump in, and you do it over and over and over.
I know, I'm thinking back to it now. That is insane.
Yeah, it was it was a real like eerie thing. And then I remember I think Timmy Van Patten put on some like real just sad music and so you're just like, it's everything about it, and then it's like
Sister Morphine by the Stones.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, it's lunchtime. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go eat like chicken parm and then jump back into this fucking pool. So I'm just like, all right, and then you're sitting around lunchtime just thinking about jumping back at I hate complaining about this shit too, because I know truck drivers are listening. Like,
no, but listen,
pussy.
dude, I tell everyone. I used to go back to the port and people would mock on me. Well, you guys, it's an easy job. Let them shoot one scene like that, and they'll go, "Well, this is fucking."
Well, even the thing I just did in Vegas, like we did a scene where we're shooting in a nightclub in Vegas, and there were all these girls there, and like 2 hours in, you see them smiling, laughing, and then about 12 hours in, they're like, "Why the fuck are we here? This is terrible." And I'm like, "We're just getting started. This is."
Well, what is the show you're working on? What are you working
on? It's a show about a bunch of poker players. Actually.
Okay, well, that's a big part of your life too. You really play Texas Hold'em, and you're good at it. You're great, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Now,
you get a guy with no job who could just move to Vegas and dedicate all of his time to it. You get decent. I'm not amazing, but I'm pretty good.
Well, do you consider moving to Vegas?
I did. I moved to Vegas for a while. Yeah, now I'm sober. I'm like, I don't know if I could do it anymore. It's
good for you, man.
It's rough.
Yeah, that's a real mature decision to make, because you're out there, you're gambling. Like you say, you're having fun, and it just got too much, right?
Yeah.
And so you go out now every few days and stuff like that to play, or?
No, like it depends. Sometimes I go 3 weeks without playing a hand, and then sometimes I play every day for 2 weeks straight. It all depends.
Well, do you make a living at it? Like enough money?
I was when I was living in Vegas, 100%. Like it was just.
But it was too dangerous. Like the other
I didn't think so then, because I was drinking at the time. Now that I'm back here and I haven't had a drink in 3 years, I'm like, wow, that was very dangerous. You're like, holy shit. I remember one night I called one of my friends and I left my will on his voicemail. Yeah, and it's just, in the background you just hear like clubbing. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, everything goes to my mom. It's just like fucking.
Wow, DJ Tiesto's in the back of my will. No, again, I tell a story sometimes. When I was on Howard, the most money I ever made doing stand-up in one night was at the Mandalay Bay in Vegas, Super Bowl Eve 2008. You might have been with me. It might have been the time you and Teddy thought I was dead. But I made $140,000 in one night doing stand-up. And
cash?
Some of it. But some was in a check. But I ended up cashing the check. They saw me come. Every time I played there, they go, you want a check or we could just give you a credit?
Right.
So
the plane's not working. We're sorry.
Exactly. I get on the plane to go home. And I started doing the math in my head. I was down $5,000 for the weekend. I lost $145.
Let me tell you something. The worst part about gambling is when you're sitting there praying to get even. Yeah, right. That's the worst thing about gambling.
Yeah.
But when you're at the end of a day or a night or a trip and you're like, man, if I hit this and leave even, this was the best trip, because at some point you were down so much.
You all turn around.
It sucks when you're just praying to get even.
My favorite part is, another thing is when you think, because I was out there for the Panthers-Patriots Super Bowl, and I had the over, and at the end of the first quarter, the score was something like 5-3. It didn't look like a football score you never see before.
Right.
And I thought, there's no way I'm getting the over. So I start betting, assuming I'm going to lose that money.
Right.
And then the over came in.
Yeah.
So I lost all the money anyway. So when the over came in, I was even.
Right.
If I had just let it on the over, I would have been up, $80,000.
Yeah. And when you talk about betting on like women's lacrosse games, that's what we would do. Shit, we'd be praying for the Liberty to like the WNBA team just to fucking hit another three. Like
I always say, if you're walking around you have a problem if you're at the Mirage Sportsbook at 5 a.m. and you're going up to strangers, drunkenly asking if they saw the high school lacrosse score. Did you get a line on the Rice Baylor game?
Yeah.
Yeah. You bet on, because the Mirage. Mandalay Bay, now all the sports books, everything, and 2 kids playing wiffle ball in Minnesota.
Yeah,
you can bet on it.
Yeah.
I got one quick thing. Yeah. I don't want to. This is a great interview. I don't want to interject too much because it's so good.
No, good.
Now it's interesting to me that you wonder, playing AJ Soprano, because you're a child. I'm sure this is some crazy psychological study that someone's done.
Right.
Because they watch out for kids and kid actors, maybe. But it almost sounds like what you're describing sounds like something AJ did. You know what I mean? It's like you wonder if playing AJ Soprano can make your life go a certain way.
Well, it introduced you to a world where, first of all, you have the money to sort of do stuff like this.
Absolutely.
Well, the money but the character. It's like it almost sounds like they could have done a whole arc of him having a gambling
Sopranos,
problem.
I was a big pussy.
No, Robert. No, I'm saying you, Robert Iler, you're much smarter than AJ Soprano.
Yeah, thank you. That's not much of a compliment.
No, but I'm saying you right. Was it hard to play a guy? That is a good point. There's really embarrassing shit that happens to AJ. It's so honest that you got to deal with. His father. I'll never fucking forget when the episode where Tony, your father, sees you in a chat room on a computer and you're laughing, and he's with he's with Lorraine Bracco in therapy later on, and she goes, "Come on, tell me some BI." He goes, "How about the fact that I hate my fucking son?" I saw him in a chat room giggling with some other jerk off. Yeah, you're painted to be mama's boy, sort of pussy-ass idiot, and you're clearly the direct opposite of that.
Yeah,
but he had problems too.
But this is something he might do. But I think he'd fuck it up, whereas you don't fuck it up.
Right, you're a good gambler.
He'd get hustled.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Did they ever Did they ever come to you? Did they ever come to you and want to write something about something maybe in your real life that happened? Does that ever happen in an episode?
On Sopranos, they would take a lot of stuff. Like I would wear a Pantera shirt to work, and then the next day I'd be wearing a Pantera shirt in the show. It's more David Chase would talk to me and we'd be talking about something, and then I'd see something like that in the show, with my character. But it wasn't like David came to me like, "Hey, 14-year-old punk," to tell me something to put in one of the greatest shows of all time.
He probably had a vision of it. It's like 7-8 years maybe, but at least a few years down the line of what kind of person you were going to be from the beginning. like the audition process for that, how long before you meet Gandolfini? Like how many auditions before you meet Chase and Gandolfini?
I don't really remember. I remember David Chase being in the room for some auditions, and the whole reason he picked me, they said, was because he loved the way that I said "fuck," and I just and it was just.
You were as a little kid, you were funny with the shit you said. Yeah.
And
no fucking ZD. We were talking about that one.
Right, and that was what I had to read in the audition.
Oh,
and he just every single time I read it, he laughed out loud.
Right,
and that was it. And all the other kids who came for the show looked like they should be on a show called Soprano. Or
right.
Whatever.
That's
Sopranos
the other thing. You don't really look like an Italian kid.
Yeah, and I was me and the girl who played my sister were the only non-Italian people on the whole show.
Wow.
Oh
wait, Meadow.
Jamie Lynn is
she's
not.
She's not Italian. Okay.
Yeah.
But she's Jewish. She's ethnic, right? I mean,
she's Cuban.
Are you Irish?
I'mIrish and German.
Irish and German. Yeah. Yeah, the Upper East Side. That was Jimmy Cagney's from there. You're from
Yorkville.
You're from Yorkville, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I got to ask you about this, and I apologize because you probably talk about this a lot. But the last scene of the show, everybody's now on the internet thinking.
It's funny, like 8 things just ran through my head. I know you hate talking. I'm like, oh fuck, this is all right. I'm happy.
I wouldn't ambush you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm just saying you might not like this because a lot of people probably ask you about it. But the last scene of the show is probably the most sort of analyzed scene ever now.
Yeah.
And on the internet, different people have different opinions. I did read one guy who made a really good argument that Tony gets killed.
Right, I saw that.
Okay, first of all, it's amazing how much of that show I relate to because I grew up in North Jersey and I had a bunch of relatives in Nutley, Belleville. I knew that whole area, and Clifton and Bloomfield. So Halston's, where you shot the last scene, I used to go to as a kid all the time. Me and my uncles were always in Halston's. We'd go play ball. We'd have ice cream, cheeseburgers there. So I was watching it. When I heard her, when Edie Falco says, we want to go to Halston's, I said, fuck. I called my cousin. I said that the last scene's going to be in Halston's. They're setting it up for that.
Right.
So I was trying to look, because I knew it so well, at people who didn't belong in Halston's coming in.
Right.
So as soon as 4 black kids walked in, I got to tell you, I never saw black people in Halston. I said, well, they're clearly going to shoot them. And so, because four young black kids come in kind of looking kind of thuggy, whatever. But then the members only guy comes in. And the guy on this internet who I read makes a point that that guy's in an episode called Members Only. That's the name of the episode. He's wearing that same jacket, and he's sort of just walking in the background at one of the parties they have at the Bada Bing or something, which I used to go to when I was 19 and 20. Fucking satin dolls all the time. So I was like, wow. So it's kind of Chase saying, look, this guy is in that world. Clearly, he was at that party. Nobody else, Tony doesn't recognize him, and he's got the members only thing. He's got that look. He goes to the bathroom. He comes out of the bathroom to Meadows Park, and it's an unbelievably well done scene. But do you have any opinion on it, like the way it was shot, at what might have happened? Do you have any idea or thoughts on, like, after you watched it? Did you know it was going to happen? Were you surprised by the ending?
No, David actually told me.
Yeah.
I don't know how long before, but a while before.
So you didn't know
we were just sitting around, and he casually said it to me, and I didn't realize it was a big deal that he said that to me until after the finale. Like, I was like, oh, wow.
He said, I'm just fading to black at the end. And it looked
I forget how he said it.
Right.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember, but I remember him just telling me, like, I have this idea, and and he wasn't, sitting to me.
That he's not going to die. Like, first of all, from a business standpoint, from being in show business for a while, to me, there's no way HBO lets him kill Tony Soprano because you don't have a movie without Gandolfini, and clearly they probably wanted to make a movie. So I think Chase was okay with that, but he probably said, okay, what's the next best thing? If I make it like completely the audience's choice. If I could do that, that's a great ending, and I've done my job, and I don't have to kill him.
And I think that's what it is for me. It's whatever.
Right.
Anybody said, like, if somebody's like, oh, I know he got killed. I'm like, okay, he got killed. Somebody's like, oh, I know that was just a window into his life, and they just cut us off. That's it. And I'm like, okay, then that's
to me it was. First of all, my sister fell for this. I called my sister up, and I said to her, God, can you believe they shot him in the head right in front of his kid? She goes, what are you talking about? I go, well, you didn't see him get shot in the head? She goes, no. I go, what did you see? She goes, my it just went black. I said, you probably had a blackout, Stace. When you check your TV for about 30 seconds, she believed me. She started screaming at me. But like I thought, my argument was, I thought it was a great ending because that's his life for the rest of his life, unless he gets arrested, is constantly looking, who the fuck's coming in here?
That anxiety of always like, shit, who just walked in? Is that 4 guys or is it 1 guy? Or is it, what about that jacket?
There's black people in Holston.
That's exactly how I took the ending. And my wife, I remember watching it with her, and she had not, she's one of these people that watched like 1 episode and didn't see any of the middle.
I couldn't do that.
Right.
So, and we're watching, I remember in a hotel room, and I started tearing up. I actually teared up at the ending, and she's like, what are you teared up at? I go, I feel like that's what that choice of ending to me is that the world still lives. He doesn't know. I go, he didn't fucking end it. I go, that's just so genius.
Right, and he's at dinner with his family. It should be the most relaxing time, and he still has to be paranoid.
And the way that you felt for that 4 seconds when the screen went black is how Tony feels every time he walks into it. Like, get out of his car, park the car.
Because if you remember, if you listen to the Stern Show after the final episode, I was yelling at Robin and Howard and Fred because I said, well, they got Carlo. Carlo got arrested, and they know he's going to flip.
Robin said, who's Carlo?
Yeah. I said, wait a minute. You don't know who Carlo is? And Howard's like, who's Carlo? I go, Carlo's the fucking guy. He's the part of the gang.
Yeah.
Who's Carlo? Carlo's, I said, then I thought I was talking to my uncle. I said, Carlo's the guy who ate the pork with the vinegar peppers. He goes, you watch the show way different than us. I go, how could you not know who Carlo is? I said, you're not allowed to talk to me anymore about the show. If you don't know who fucking Carlo is. You were hanging around with also those scenes are all great where you're hanging around with those kids that are the sons of Carlo and the other guy. And Patsy, right? Or somebody. And, you don't like when the black kid gets into the bike accident.
I go to school and I whack that guy.
And you're looking at those guys going, I don't want to be these guys.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're depressed
or even
over
more
it.
so. I think like I don't have what it takes to be
there's that, but
very
I really
fragile.
That's where I didn't really get into that. Like you get mad at AJ sometimes for being kind of a wuss. I didn't think that. I was like, wow, I think he really is depressed at the world. You know, because you tell your therapist afterwards. Everything sucks,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm glad. So that's your thought of it too. That's how he's going to think the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gandolfini dying, man. I did. I wept over that, and I never met the guy. Where are you when you hear that?
I was playing a poker tournament in Vegas.
Yeah. Wow.
Can I get a water?
Go ahead.
Please?
Yeah.
Thank you. No,
go ahead. Yeah.
I was playing a poker tournament in Vegas, and I just
and a guy while you were playing, a guy told you or something?
No, I got a phone call from one of the guys, and he just told me, and then thank you, and then I looked down, had a text from Jamie, and then I just fell. Like when I got the news, honestly, like it didn't register. Like I sat there for a good 5 minutes, kind of like. You need the Twitter and this and that. And I'm like, he's not. This is crazy. Like I remember I was sitting and I was like. I battled between like, there's no way I'm never not really seeing him again.
Right.
That's just not real.
The finality of death is like this. Wow.
Right. And also, there was a large part of me that was like, can this be a joke or this or not a joke, obviously, but
but
some
it can't,
fucking
this day and
weird.
age, maybe Twitter. You're right. Maybe some assholes doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when I looked down and I saw a text from Jamie Lynn, and I just fucking,
it's real. Yeah.
And I just lost it. Like I was in a bad. It was rough. Yeah.
What? So do you leave Vegas? What do? Do you get the hell home, or what? You find?
No, I was in living in Vegas at the time, and I just to me, Gandolfini hated publicity.
Right.
He hated being interviewed. He hated that.
You could tell that.
And I grew up, not under his wing, but that's who I looked up to. So I saw that as. That's what I did too. I walked past the people who were trying to get the.
You wanted to be like him in real life too,
and
because you
also
were a
I
kid.
just fucking hate. Like I love sitting here with you,
Right.
but I hate fucking standing on a line of 100 people and saying the same thing over and over. And what do you like to this teen magazine? I'm like, I don't give a shit about
right.
So
I think that's probably what was great about being on Sopranos. It seemed like one of the rare shows where it's not like. It's so fucking well written and so real that it feels like you're doing something that's above most of all the other shit.
Well, it definitely is, but it's also great that you in real life tried to be like him in real life too.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then I would just see people doing these interviews for these magazines, and I just knew like I don't like that. That does nothing for me.
Right.
Like I feel like okay, then what? It's just a waste of time to me or whatever.
Right.
But
was he a mentoring type or just naturally
very
sunk in?
naturally,
It sounds like he cared about you, right?
Oh my god, like unbelievable. Like I think I told you last time. I'm not sure, but he
got in trouble or something.
Yeah, but there was one thing where like he called my manager.
Right.
You know, and just to be like, is Robert all right? You know,
Right.
what is he spending for rent? Is he on the right track? Is he going to be okay? My manager's like, yeah, no, you know, is he
That's
crazy?
great to hear because you do, like, to me, some of these kid actors, they go on and whatever adults were working with them, you do feel like maybe you feel a responsibility for this person. You know,
Right.
like it could really, because when you're a kid, life is completely distorted anyway. And then you get in show business and fame distorts everything, you know?
Yeah.
So now you're a kid who's famous. Forget it. The odds of you sitting here right now normal are really not that great, which makes me feel awesome, first of
Right.
all.
Well, a lot of people would say I'm far from normal, but I am sitting here.
No,
you know.
you're fine. I mean, you know, it's.
Yeah.
But there were things when you got into those incidents that were public where I remember even we discussed them maybe on Howard where I was like, God, I'm worried about this kid. It's going down the Leif Garrett route or something.
See, you know what's funny? When everybody was worried about me, that's the time that people should not have been worried about me. It was the time where like nobody heard from me for 3 years.
Oh, right,
You know,
okay,
it's like, but you know, when I was 16 and got arrested and all that shit, that was not.
It was
like,
kid stuff.
Yeah, it was literally like, you know, some kids were walking through a park that me and my friends hung out in, and
Right.
you know, there was going to be a fight, and instead this kid who nobody knew said, "Hey, let me get your."
Right.
You know, your wallet and this, and we were just kind of like, oh, that's weird, and just kind of went on, you know, sat back on the bench and kept smoking weed and this,
It's
and
New
the
York
cops
shit.
came, and yeah, it was
Right.
just like, and then everybody, it was like, oh my God, is this kid okay? Is he this and that? I was like, yeah, I was hanging out with my friends and something
Right.
happened. Like, I can't be responsible for, you know.
What about your friends from that neighborhood? Were you close with them throughout those years you were on the show? Or
Yeah, my best friend has been my best friend for 26 years.
Okay.
And he's just the
And he's
greatest.
still in your
Rex
life
is,
and- right.
Yeah, he's the best, you know. And then, but yeah, I have a lot of friends from my neighborhood, and then I had some friend. You know, one of my really good friends just passed away. They just found him in Mexico. You know, just
Yeah, you start to hear about that.
Yeah, he was just.
How old are you now? What are you?
I'm 30.
You're 30 now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it starts. Between the ages of 28 and 35, I probably went to 7 or 8 funerals.
Yeah.
Buddies I went to high school with. So did you end up going to Gandolfini's funeral? Or did you?
Well, that was the thing. I was. You know, the emotions that were going through my head at the time were
Right.
insane, and I just I felt like going to this. If his family called me and said, "Listen, we're having his funeral," because his family said they didn't want anybody from Sopranos at the funeral, which is fine.
Oh, is that what they said?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
They just not that
Wow,
they
I
didn't want
know.
anybody from Sopranos. They didn't want anybody. They didn't
To
want it to
make
be
it
a
a
public
circus.
thing. They
Right,
wanted it to
okay.
be his family, and which is of course that's fine. If I got a call from them or that the thing was open to us, I would have flown home. I would have been there. But
Okay.
to do this like thing, I didn't really understand what it was, and this public thing for all these people to come and
And
get
you
their
were
picture
respecting
taken,
what-
cry, and I was
right,
just
yeah.
like, it feels terrible to me. Like I think about James, and I think of how much he would fucking hate the fact
Right.
that I was there, or that's just the way it felt to me. I don't know if I'm right,
Right,
or
there was
wrong.
press
I'm sure it was a
outside.
beautiful
Yeah.
ceremony, whatever it was. I don't even know because I can't even hear
No,
about it and whatever. But it's at the time especially. I felt like I had to deal with it my own way, and that was not it. You know.
Did you feel like you? I mean, is your father still around?
Yeah.
You're now. Did you feel in some ways like you lost a dad, some sort of a dad, or an uncle, or a close relative?
The weird part was like, if you lose your dad, 60 people know.
Right.
When I lost him,
Yeah,
every
everybody
single
knows, right.
fucking person I walked past knew.
Right.
And that was like nothing I'll never ever experience again in my life. Like I don't know how. Like still, like I don't know how I coped with that. It's just everywhere. Like if
I
your
just said,
father,
fame. It distorts everything.
right? Like
yeah.
if your father passes away, and you're sitting here thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. You know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go get a coffee. I'm going to go do this. That was the worst thing I could do at the time. Like I sat in my hotel room just not because anytime I would go to just people would see me and it was automatic. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Are you?
Right.
And it was like being at a funeral everywhere I went.
Right. That's. Look, I understand where you're coming from in the sense that, again, I have a certain level of fame, like a C list on a good day, maybe B minus list comedian. But the fact that when you see somebody who clearly knows who you are, it's still fucking odd to me where you go, God, that guy knows all about me and I don't know anything about him, and that's fucking weird.
Well, how about the weirdest thing ever is like what I know about you and you know about me. Like
Right.
you probably think you know me a little from watching Sopranos. I feel like I know you from me.
Well,
we
that's
don't
true.
know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Well, no, you probably. I did lay it on the line a couple of times. If someone's playing a role, you don't know as much. But yeah. But here's the thing about the difference between the fame I have and you. You do probably know a lot of things that are true about me. With you, I'm such a fan of what you did. I'm very curious about that stuff. Like, what is he like? You know, and the fact that you're a guy who could just even hang out without the fact that you know that there's so many famous people who don't even realize what you just said. They're not smart enough to or deep enough to have an analogy about fame like what you just talked about. Like everywhere was a funeral. That's interesting. A lot of famous people, you meet them and they don't even know that.
Yeah.
They're just fucking vapid.
Yeah.
And it's sad, you know.
That's why you're a New Yorker, by the way. And you love New York.
Yeah.
Because people in LA, they don't. I noticed that a lot of the show busy people, and even people just trying to be actors. Like one story that comes to mind to me, and this is so LA, 9/11 just happened.
Right.
It's 2 days later, and I'm in a fucking acting class. And I remember going, why do I want to act? This is stupid. Something huge that's so sad just happened. This seems wrong to just go pretend to be somebody in a scene.
Right.
And I'm out of it. And this 21-year-old kid's next to me 2 days after 9/11, and he looks at me and goes, "You seem like upset. Like, what's going on?" He said, "What's going on?" I go, "Are you fucking kidding me, dude?" Motherfucker.
The story I always tell is in May of 1996, the day Dwight Gooden threw his no-hitter for the Yankees. I was in Los Angeles. I was doing Mad TV at the time, and we had just finished the first season. I had to stay to do press, and I wanted to go home. And my cousin and my friend were at the game. I'm like, fuck, Gooden threw a no-hitter, blah, blah, blah. That night in L.A., because of the time difference, I heard in the 6th inning, Gooden had a no-hitter going. Hours go by, I do all this shit, and you're in a vacuum out there, and I don't know what happened. So I go to dinner to meet some friends of mine who were friends with some of the producers at Fox. And it's 12 couples out at the dinner. And, men and women. And I said, young guys, I said, does anybody know if Dwight Gooden threw a no-hitter today? No one even, like, they looked at me like they didn't know what a baseball was. Like, no-hitter, who's Dwight Gooden? Everyone was going blank, like, what's he talking about? I said, nah, he's a baseball thing. I'll forget it. I'm a Yankee fan. It was just a weird thing. 20 minutes later, none of them knew if Dwight Gooden threw a no-hitter. 20 minutes later, I find out every single person at the table knew the sitcom Ned and Stacey had got picked up for a full season.
That's so funny.
So that's LA. Or when remember the sniper in Washington, D.C., the guy and his son were shooting people? That guy, when they caught him, the father was like this, like young, like almost like a model, like a black guy, a good-looking black guy. I'm in
LA. Just
LA.
did a movie about that.
Yeah, right. Well, this guy is like, I wonder who played him because the guy looked like an actor when they caught him. So they catch the guy. He killed 30 people, bloody murder. I'm out at the Havana room in Beverly Hills with my agent. A table behind us, all hot chicks. They see CNN, a picture of the guy, and they say murder underneath. We're going, wow, they got the guy. Every chick looks at the TV and goes, he's cute. like they would clearly date him.
Yeah, right.
So
he's getting a lot of letters. Yeah.
Well, the fact that you realize that about LA too is it makes me happy.
You know what I got from LA when I was there is like, people in New York ask you what you do because they're interested in you. People in LA ask you what you do to see if they're interested in you.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good one.
Absolutely.
That's what I picked up from
LA. That makes total sense.
That's good.
Absolutely. It's and that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's a friend. Finding a chick you're going to date.
The worst
about
thing
that.
to me is like, I grew up in New York City. I know I fucking keep saying that, but I say it all the time.
It's
different,
thing.
you know?
Right,
And if I don't like somebody, if I didn't like somebody, wherever growing up now, it's just we know we don't like each other. We know that in LA, people will be hanging out with somebody over your house, then they leave, and you're like, oh, I fucking hate that guy. And it's like, well, why do you hang out with it? It's like, oh, his dad invented the zipper. You know, like some shit where you're like, I don't understand why.
His dad wrote 83 Hogan's Heroes.
Right. Yeah. You know, on the envelope, that thing that sticks. You know, it's like, yeah, that's him. And it's just like, and you have people over your house who you don't like.
What's scary about that is you just saw that guy being that phony. So now you're like, what do you think about me?
Yeah, of course.
You just saw that guy treat him like his best fucking friend.
Yeah, I really do dislike LA.
It's really scary.
Do you think they picked this up in you when you got picked for the part? I'm curious.
At 12 years old, you don't know anything.
Heart comes through at any age, don't you think? I think heart comes through in great acting.
Then it's atmosphere that you grow up in.
You know what's funny? I feel like when I was 6 years old, I was the most mature 6-year-old you've ever met in your entire life.
Right.
Like I was 20 years old when I was 6. Mm-hmm. But then when I was 28 years old, I was the same exact level of mature. Like I never advanced in any. I never grew, and now these last couple of years, I got sober. And I look back and I'm like, oh wow, things are changing. And I start doing yoga, and I'm like, wow.
First of all, you look like you're in good shape and everything.
Thank you. Yeah.
Talk about your sobriety there. I mean, as much as you want to.
My sobriety.
My sobriety.
It's
Tracy Morgan. That's hilarious.
It's not so much like I'm like this guy who's like I'm sober. I'm this. Just for me, I can't drink anymore.
Did you do AA or anything?
No,
like that?
I moved to Vegas for 2 years. That was what fucking really.
And on your own, you just
on my own.
Right.
I one crazy night, my 28th birthday. After that, I was like, okay, if we make it through this, we're done. We're just not drinking anymore. And that was almost 3 years ago. I don't even know like the date. I just know it was around my birthday because I'm like that freaks me out when people are like it's been 700 days. I'm like whoa. Like,
that is an AA thing. They make you remember that, and I got so many dates now I can't even fucking remember. But
just drink. It's really because drinking led to everything else. Whatever.
Well, what about? Is there anything else that like gambling doesn't lead to drinking automatically for you? It was more about Vegas. You thought, right?
Yeah, I mean it was just there was no sense of reality out there. Like it was at any time I wanted, I could go find a bunch of people who were having the time of their life.
At any time. Yeah,
at any time. It's 4 a.m. on a Wednesday. No problem. It's 2 in the afternoon on a Monday. No problem.
I've done 3 days was my limit out there. And Joe will tell you, we did a bunch of gigs together. I started to, one time I was out there for 5 straight days with the Stern Show. And I stayed a couple extra days. And I got on the plane and I started feeling myself, okay, am I still here? Like I'm going back to reality.
Yeah.
Like, am I still alive? Did that really happen last night? You know? And you have nightmares about it. Like I have nightmares about dark shit.
Yeah.
At 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, a strip club's open and you're there.
Yeah.
And
I woke up at the Rhino one time. Like I opened my eyes. I was in the Rhino. There was no one around. There was a guy with like the buffer for the floor, just cleaning
the
up.
Zamboni of strippers.
Yeah, and I didn't remember, like, wow, how did this all, but it was just.
That's amazing.
I just flew back from Vegas yesterday.
Right.
And this was kind of, this will show you Vegas. And funny how I feel bad because the guy hired me and Sheba Mason and he paid us very good money.
Right.
And he was like the greatest guy ever. All these high-rolling lawyers, guys that like were the guy one of the lawyers there actually knew Aaron Brockovich. Like he was part of that settlement.
Right.
They were all catastrophic care
Was that
lawyers.
the audience? You mean?
Yeah, they were going to be the audience, right?
Right.
And they had, all these different doctors. You don't realize how many steps are involved in getting that $1 million. Like that's if so.
For what? What do you mean?
They're like these lawyers that settle cases where something humongously catastrophic happened,
Right.
like a Tracy Morgan situation.
Right.
Like this one guy who was there. There must have been billions of dollars when that Aaron Brockovich thing went down. And they planned this event, all these different speakers, then they hired 2 comedians to go on. And I'm looking at their itinerary, and it's just like from 7 in the morning till like 6 at night. And then there's this cocktail hour, then us. And I'm going, it's Monday night.
Yeah.
We're in Vegas. There's a football game on. This
Right.
is all lawyers, right? And I'm going, they're not going to stay. And I look and I'm like, there's no dinner. They're not. They're going all day
There's
working.
nothing to break up the drinking.
It was just all day like boring for their job, and then Monday Night Football. They're in Vegas or us, and I'm just like. Oh,
so you
man.
thinking no one's going to show
And
up?
no one did show up. It was hilarious. The guy came up to us. He gave us the money. He goes, "We could probably do this again." I'm thinking he's going to send us
So
home.
you didn't fucking do the show.
We
and he
did
paid.
it. I'm so
For
nervous.
who though?
He goes, I do these every year for like 4 a year. Maybe we'll have different.
Who did you perform
different
for?
people.
Well, who was there though? I mean.
Well, like a third of them must have been really clean cut.
Oh, okay. So they came. so enough people came to do the show.
Like 38 people showed up. He was expecting 200.
So you're saying a bunch of lawyers with a bunch of money watching Monday Night Football at the Mirage Sportsbook don't go. We got to get to the Joe Menace show.
There's no way. I was like, there's no way anyone's coming to this.
Listen, I wouldn't go see Elvis at that point. It's like, no, fuck it.
That's like, what's funny? I was just trying to figure out, like, so you had the 2 smoking hot chicks, the Catavan twins. You got Mike Boschetti, who I find is so funny, you chose to stick with Filato. That's it. That's kind of,
You should have seen the chick I was living with before Filato. Dan came in and listen, it's like an Odd Couple thing with Oscar and Felix. Dan came in to produce the podcast, and the game plan was always, and we never talked differently about this. The game plan was always, I'll be here for a couple of weeks and I'll find an apartment. And it's been a year. I think stop, looking for an apartment. But that wasn't a conscious decision.
Right.
We didn't. The Catavan twins. I don't know what they're doing. Are they still in New York?
I could probably tell you.
Well, Boschetti though is still in my life.
Right. He's dropped what, like 150?
Yeah, I don't know. He's one of those guys. He keeps telling people on the internet he's healthy. And he's not healthy. I go, you got to stop saying that, Mike. It looks ridiculous. He goes, Artie, I'm telling you I'm healthy. I'm like, no, you're better. You're better. You're not healthy.
That video you posted of Bichetti where he trips trying to balance. It's so funny.
He is the fucking
You
greatest.
see it?
No, but I just
what we got to do?
imagine.
Actually, you'll like being a fan of the show. Dan, play that Twitchell's thing.
Oh,
You play. Okay, there's a kid,
Oh, I don't even
Twitchell.
know
the
Yeah,
last-
I know. I've heard him on
Okay,
here.
Twitchell's has Tourette's.
I know
and he's-
Twitchell's. What did he do?
And he's gay.
It's like Gaboo,
All
right, that
well,
guy?
This is unbelievable about the It's unreal, like today's technology. And Howard started thinking about this with when we, like, for instance, remember years ago, it was before we went to Sirius, it might have been before you started listening, we did a roast contest where the audience roasts us.
Right.
And it was just so simple, but really popular, where the audience does all the work and we just hear the shit and play it. And that's what the Stern Show started to be. They would take clips of all of us, edit them, and to get in good with Howard, send it to the show, and it would be content for the show. This guy did that with our show. He took a bunch of clips of me interviewing Twitchell's, who's, again, a gay guy with Tourette's, and really bad Tourette's, and really bad gay, too. Both diseases. He has both diseases. He's a hardcore guy, and he took me interviewing him with Levy, and he made this clip reel that, honestly, I've listened to 5 straight times, and by the end, I'm laughing so hard. I broke a rib laughing at this. And do you have it, Flip? Yeah. All right. This is I'm gonna give the fan a shout out too. But this is our fans at work. Keep these coming, by the way.
I deep throat. On the way here, Artie, Bob had to pull over on the highway because I had to throw up.
Over on the highway,
No, it's stress and nerves. And like I said, that's another reason why the tics are worse today. Because when I get stressed, I'm kind of talking to this guy, and I
Wait a minute. Let's go through your background. You are homosexual.
You love cock.
I came out to my parents when I was like 12 years old, but I came out nationally on MTV just 4 months ago.
Thank you, God.
I met this guy on Facebook.
At that point, does your father just say, just do me a favor, shoot me with a bow and arrow?
My dad was a Marine and in the Army and fought in
Well,
Nam.
he clearly is sympathetic.
Thank you so much. I met this guy on Facebook. Now, he was already friends with me. I like to consider myself humble. I'm setting this up. See, you're amping me
Don't
up.
bring your mother into it.
This guy, and I notice he's fucking hot. I don't know personally. Svelte, about 5'10", 5'11", very built, white. Short, blonde hair, slicked back. I deep throat.
Calm down.
A nice hot tattoo.
Oh, okay.
I'm describing a picture, you old fuck. And I realize he's on my friends list. I'm like, I don't know this guy, but he's on my friend list, and he's hot. Let me say hi. So I message him. He immediately messages me back.
Bring, you've got mail. Bring, you've got ass.
Bing, I deep throat.
Boy, we jumped a bunch of levels there. Bring, I got HIV. What?
All right, my friend. So I message him. Hey, bud, noticed you're on my friends list. Wasn't sure who you are, but you're cute. Bing, I deep throat. Really? Because I thought you were the cute one.
Oh! Ladies and gentlemen.
Bing, bing, I deep throat. And I was, oh my God, excited that he said that. So, but I'm assuming he knows I have Tourette's.
Either that or you're getting raped by a mountain goat. Please keep talking.
I love it.
Yeah. But what happened?
He messages me back.
Have you got AZT?
So we skip a few levels to I deep throat. Oh, relax. Fuck you. So he sends me a video of with him saying, "Hey, what's up, Lewis?" Because I want to make sure he said my name, so I knew it was really him. And It was, and oh my God, this guy's fucking hot. Hearing him say my name made it even hotter. So basically, I go into the bathroom to record myself. It was I'm the lucky one. Your girlfriend was sucking my gibbo. I love you guys. So then he asked me, all messaging, he says, do you have a phone sex? And I said, of course. We had phone sex for about a half hour. We both busted our nuts. I came so much. It was fucking delicious.
Wait, you ate your own jizz?
Come.
The Artie Quitter Podcast.
That's Gilbert. Oh my God, that's fucking funny, man. Holy hell, what's like 18 minutes?
See, I feel like that guy who's making that has to be in a dark place.
Yeah.
I mean, man.
You're right. I mean, you're so right about that too. Like, first of all, you mentioned something about you find out Gandolfini died. You mentioned Twitter. I'm thinking about that. Like, yeah, Twitter changes everything, man.
Yeah.
If I'm I don't know, Joe, how you feel about this? A young comedian coming up with Twitter. Like imagine us at 24, how stressed we were. Then he had Twitter to the occasion. The immediate reviews from everyone, like in Philly or Camden. But that guy's a typical Twitter guy. I mean, listen, unbelievable job, but he's got it. That takes a lot of time.
Does that live on Twitter yet?
That's yeah. He tweeted it to me. That's how I got it. Yeah.
But
it's on SoundCloud.
I sat with my friend editing this TV show we did in LA, and to sit during stuff like that, editing and hearing the same thing over and over and over, and that was, man.
And that guy did it. That guy, you're right. The guy just probably is in his basement doing it.
I'm like, how many appearances of Twitchell was that?
That's
was
just one interview.
That's one interview.
One day he opened up about everything about the gay part.
I heard
I was sitting. I think I was there that day.
That's the interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because all those jokes of me and Bob, the one-liners me and Levi, that's all the same interview. That's what a scumbag I am. Very sympathetic.
It rolls so perfectly with that beat.
Yeah, dun.
I mean, look, forget about the rest of the ticks. And if you have a disease that every 2 hours makes you go, wah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Forget every 30 seconds. That kid is tortured. I mean, I really feel for him. There's nothing I wouldn't do for that guy.
But imagine, like, I know I've heard you talk about stuff like this before too, but like, you know, when you start dating a chick and then you're like, the stuff goes bad a little, you're like, oh, why would she want to be with me? You know, why would they? And like, imagine that.
I can't.
I was listening to something where I forget who it was. You were saying how Eric the Midget must have had some fucking crazy.
Well, yeah, he was Eric the Midget was a guy who, my joke, he came to a San Francisco show I did once. Did you do that San Francisco gig with me like in 08 or 09 where Eric the Midget came?
No, I've never done San Fran with you.
Okay, Eric, it's 4,000 people in the theater in Frisco, sold out show. Eric the Midget comes because he lives by there. I introduce him, the whole place boos him. And I go, okay, listen, do you know how much of an asshole you have to be if you're a handicapped midget in a wheelchair and 4,000 people immediately boo you? Like he booed him as if he was Hitler. Like they're just like, you got to be an asshole.
The greatest thing ever was when he was on the show and he said something gay, and you said, what kind of fruit are you? And Jimmy Kimmel was on the phone, and he goes, he's a cantaloupe. That was one of my favorite lines ever. He goes, he's a cantaloupe. Oh, man, that's such a good one.
There is shit that, it's funny, you say rewinding the show back and forth. Sirius did add that aspect of it. Now with the technology, now you can break it down letter by letter. But I used to do sports references just to make Gary or John laugh that I knew Howard would never laugh at. We had this model on. It's when Fred Durst was famous still, the guy from, what's the name of that
Limp
group?
Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit, okay. Fred Durst always wore a red baseball hat. That was his thing. So we had this vapid model on. She was boring. And John's sitting next to her for some reason. John and Gary are in the studio. So Howard, I'm falling asleep, and Howard says, so have you seen Fred Durst? He goes, I didn't see him for a year. And I go into the fucking club in L.A., and I see a red hat coming towards me. And I said, was it Barry Larkin? He's a shortstop for the Reds in the 90s. And Howard didn't even hear it. She didn't even hear it. They keep talking. John and Gary are throwing up laughing. And that's one of those things where you do a gig and like 80 truck drivers go, we heard the Barry Larkin.
It's so funny, like that's his thing. Like I wear a fucking red hat everywhere. Oh my God.
Yeah. What about your thing being I write good songs?
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a simpler time then. You just had to have a red hat and you were fucking,
Oh yeah, that
cool.
chick, that guy fucked every chick though, man.
Yeah.
One of those annoying things.
I remember I went to like DFP or one of those
What is
concerts that
Right,
K-Rock
like a
had.
festival, yeah.
And they asked me to introduce Creed.
Right.
And they were the band who was closing the whole show. Howard was there actually,
Right.
and before they went on, Limp Bizkit was supposed to go on. And let's say it was 5 o'clock, and they were in the back, and they're like, we don't go on until the sun goes down.
Wow.
So they made all their fans sit there for
God.
hours and just waiting for the sun to go down. And then the sun came out, went down, and they
Limp Bizkit had that rule?
Yeah,
Oh,
Limp Bizkit
God.
did that thing, and I remember I was like a 16-year-old punk, and by the time I had to introduce Creed, I just made some stupid fucking comment about waiting 3 hours for Limp Bizkit, but they would not perform in the sunlight.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's my rule, too.
Assholes.
Yeah, they were
told
Limp
them that.
Bizkit. You're not Led Zeppelin.
Right.
It's just
That's
like-
why my favorite thing about cutting through that pretentious band shit is a story Norm told me about when Rodney Dangerfield was hosting Saturday Night Live and Pearl Jam was in their prime. And, Vedder, I like Eddie Vedder now, but they were very pretentious back in the day.
yeah.
Like the voice of a generation type of thing. So they were the band, and Rodney's the host. So Rodney's taking a nap, and they're rehearsing. And Vedder's like, Rodney Dangerfield he comes out of his dressing room in a robe, and he goes, hey, guys, we get it. You're a band. You got to sing every fucking word? I'll tell my jokes, you sing a song, all right? Hey, guys, we get it. You're a band.
What was the thing that Dice said about the fire trucks?
Oh, well, that was at Jimmy Florentine's wedding. Dice Clay hadn't spoken to me since I crashed and burned with the heroin. So Dice comes over to me and says, "Get over here. I want to talk to you like Andrew. I'm not going to talk to you like Dice. I want to talk to you like Andrew. You need some fucking life advice." I'm like, "All right, is this Andrew now? Because it sounds like Dice." He says, "Don't fuck with me. You don't. Everything's not a fucking joke. Get outside." So I'm like, "All right." So we go out on the terrace. It was in Asbury Park at a hotel. And it's about 5 in the afternoon on a Sunday. And he starts talking to me. And he goes, "Listen, broads will drive you fucking crazy." He goes, "My second wife was a fucking nightmare. She had 10 brothers and sisters." I said, "You got 10 sisters? You don't know how to cook a fucking chicken? You get it? You can cook a fucking chicken?" So he started to yell. I'm like, I don't understand where this is going. Right in the middle of it, there was a fire in Asbury Park, and the fire trucks go by, like with the sirens, and interrupts Andrew. So he becomes Dice for a second. And he's pissed off, and he goes, "Yay, there's a fire! Yay, we're going to the fire! Just put out the fucking fire. You gotta tell me you're going to the fire? Yay, we got the sirens. We're going to a fire." And I thought about the whole concept of a siren. Like, yeah, why do I have to know?
The car in front of you has to hear maybe,
Right. But that's the thing. There was no traffic. He
Yeah.
goes, "No one's here.
Yeah.
It's not fucking the Hamptons on the 4th of July."
Is that when he did the any chick can fuck, right? Me and my friends say that all the
That's what he
time.
said. Any chick can fuck.
What do you bring to the table?
What are you bringing to the table?
Oh my god, that's the
Any
best.
chick can fuck. That's what he said. That's what he said. In other words, I fuck you too, but what am I? I'm bringing a lot of money to the table.
Yeah.
You fuck, great. Everybody fucks.
Right, that's her thing. She's like, well, that's what I bring to. I fuck. Yeah, any chick can fuck.
No, that's not what you bring to the table.
That's the best.
I love a smart. It's like a smart dumb joke. I love that.
That's you could describe a lot of Dice's
I love that
material
kind
as
of shit.
But see, I opened for the first time I opened for him. It was every drunk loser in the crowd. It was up near Boston. Wanted to was yelling out the poems, and he was doing stuff about the modern world that you hadn't heard Dice do for like 10 years. He was talking about Sex in the City, and I'm like, I would love to hear Dice's opinion of Sex in the fucking City. I don't want to hear idiots, and he had to stop the bit. But I finally saw the whole thing. We were on tour together. We did like 5 cities. The bit, it was so fucking funny. He goes, "Yeah, Sex in the City. Who told Sarah Jessica Jerkoff she's sexy? I don't have to fucking. You know what I want to see? Porn. You know what's sexy? Porn. Do I want to see Miranda with her new shoes? No, I want porn."
I love it.
Hey, something when Sarah Jessica's getting come on by a black guy in porn. And he kept winding up the face.
Oh, I love
he
it.
did the face wind up into the mic. Porn. What was Sarah Jessica Jerkoff?
Dude, I saw you've talked about this with Dice is weird because you like idolize him growing up, especially you're Italian growing up in Jersey.
It's the only guy where every Guido for like 2 years, the only comic ever, they were blasting him from a Jeep.
I remember having my T-tops out on a Trans Am.
Kinnison was huge, but those poems, it was crazy.
Dude, I had the T-tops out in the Trans Am in like the fucking mid-'80s. Cracking
That
Dice.
is the cover of Asshole Magazine.
But I remember being in L.A. and Dice was on, and I watch his set, and he's fucking hilarious. Then he comes off stage, and he holds court at the back, outside at the Comedy Store. And about an hour into the conversation, you just look at your watch, and you're like, all right. Dice is a huge asshole. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Off, he's very much like, off stage, he's so funny, but he really has a lot of, he says some stuff to you where you go, this guy sounds like he's been in show business for 2 days compared to like 25 years. He asks you like naive questions. It's weird.
But he'll allow 10
He
guys.
didn't know how to pay you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. But he'll allow 10 guys to not say a word and just listen to him, and he'll talk to them for 4 hours until they slowly leave.
He does fuck with people. He does like he sees how he's one of those guys. Him and Club Soda Kenny. Their humor was like, let me see, and Florentine's like this too, and Norton, because they're disciples of him. Like, let's see how long I can make a joke go. Like, the whole joke is how
Florentine
long.
is the
Right.
worst.
Like, how long can I get this person to do this? And it gets awkward. That's the
and then
whole
he
thing.
shuts the door to his car home and is like, "Can you believe that fucking guy?" While everyone's like, "Oh, he's a dick."
Well, Howard talks about when they were really friendly in the late '80s. Howard was going to see home. He asked Howard to come with him with a realtor in Long Island to look at houses, and he said that him and Dice and his friends were running through the house like fucking with shit. And Howard got the realtor, and he's a little proper. He's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Come on, let's fuck with the realtor." He's like, "No, I don't want to fuck with the realtor." Yeah, he would. He used to call me sometimes for like 3-hour conversations on the phone, Dice, and those were always amazing. Like his opinions about people in show business were, oh my God, it was so fucking funny.
And he was at that point where it was like, fuck everybody.
Yeah,
then, right? Yeah,
very angry.
Everybody turned their back on him.
His sets at the Comedy Store became just trashing Seinfeld for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I think he would fuck with like you saying, fuck with people. He would like do those weird things. I saw him at the Comedy Store. They would introduce him. He'd come up, everybody clap, and he would really enjoy.
Right.
How low can I bring this?
Yes.
Right.
And bomb. Right.
Yeah.
He wanted to
He
bomb.
would stand there and he'd start just touching the mic with his finger, and he'd go, "Give me this louder, a little louder," and he just start touching. All right, that's good. All right, lights. Dim the lights.
Yeah,
This sounds like Tony Sirico, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This literally is like hanging out with Tony Sirico.
How is Tony Sirico?
The greatest.
I mean, like, because Tony Sirico's a guy, he played Paulie, of course, in The Sopranos. Again, another guy, unbelievable actor. Who knew he was that good of an actor?
He is the best.
He had the look and everything. He was a guy you saw in Woody Allen movies. Any movie shot in New York City before The Sopranos, he had a part in.
Yeah.
And he always played a mob guy. He's in Goodfellas. Tootie and him get into the fight at the beginning of Goodfellas outside the cab stand where he grabs Tootie's nuts and he goes, "It's your fault. It's your fault." He's got the rings on.
Mm-hmm.
That's Tony Sirico.
Yeah.
And but his brother was a real guy. Like had connections.
Sirico did time.
Yeah, I heard that, but I heard his brother was like a maid situation.
Right.
But what was it like hanging out with him? Was he like an Uncle Tony type of thing, or?
Very much. And
Yeah.
he, from 12 years old, he literally grabbed me and was like, if anybody ever fucks with you, he's like, you
love
just
it.
call me and you let me. But one of the greatest stories ever for Tony Sirico. So we used to do all this shit, like, these events. And this one was actually charity, so that's why I'm sure we were there. But, like, you'd get a phone call and be like, hey, they want all the Sopranos to go to whatever at the Hilton, blah, blah. And we'd be like, well, let me know who's going. And as soon as you heard James was going or Edie was going, that you knew everyone was going. So you were just like, okay, I'm in, Or I talked to Jamie, okay, we're in. So we heard there was about the Heart Share Foundation, and we heard like everyone's going. So we're like, of course we'll go, And we show up, and it's this woman is telling like a sad story or whatever up at the microphone, and there's thousands, or hundreds of people all sitting around at dinner tables. And while she's telling a story, all of a sudden you just hear, he's like, oh, and everybody starts kind of looking back and seeing what's going on. And Tony Sirico has his hand in the air and he's snapping, and he's just oh, and he keeps doing it. So everyone's going, me, no. Finally, there's like a guy 6 tables over pouring wine, and he's like holding the bottle of wine over like this. So everybody gets his attention, and they're like, yeah. And he turns, and Tony goes, yeah, you get over here. The greatest part is the guy walks over, and he goes to pour the wine, and Tony Strico goes like this. He just puts a finger on the cup to pour the wine, and he's pouring, and when he got about 3/4 of the way up, he just went like this. And he just put his pinky out as to stop him, looked at him, and the guy went away. He took the wine and just looked up at the stage like nothing happened. And everyone is still staring at him like everyone in there was looking at him like this is the great. He would smoke cigarettes inside the SAG Awards. Like it was just things where people were like, what are they doing? You know, just it was.
Well, you know, again, something from the show that reminds me of what you're talking about. Like it sounds like a real life thing. Is at the premiere of Cleaver, everybody's supposed to be quiet and take your cell phones off. Who knows who came up with this line? It might have been improv. He's on the cell phone while the movie's going on. He's going, yeah, he'll be there. The Guatemalan. The Guatemalan.
Guatemala.
Well, you know what else was great about The Sopranos you see in the press was that you guys really looked up to Gandolfini as almost like the boss of you all, like the cast.
And it was because he didn't act like that.
Right.
You know, that's why everybody looked at him that way, because he never acted like he was better than anybody or that he was the boss or that he was this, but everybody kind of looked at him like, are we doing this? You know, whatever it was.
Without mentioning any names, you can if you want to. You do whatever you want. Were there people in the cast who sort of like became outcasts because they were phony, because they got into the show business?
Honestly, not one.
Not one, okay.
Not one.
Because I heard about one person that might have, but I heard it from a guy that might be bullshitting.
Who?
Well, I heard Joey G might have been a guy that people didn't.
Yeah, I've heard people had their problems.
Because I know Joey is he's a friend of mine. Me and Nick DiPaolo used to write him jokes for his stand-up act. He told me when he was known as being gay from the show, he said I'm going to do some stand-up to make money. Can you and Nick write me some jokes? So me and Nick met him out for lunch, and the only joke I came up with, I said, what about like peppers and eggs is a big Italian thing. I said, what about you say you make peppers and eggs? As a joke. I said that as a joke. He wrote that down. I get a call from him. He goes, that didn't work. That got booze. I go, what got booze? He goes, peppers and eggs. I go, you did peppers and eggs? I said, I was kidding.
I remember him he would come to your shows in Vegas.
Yeah, he was a joke. But so I heard from Sharippa, who we've all known from stand-up.
I love Steve.
Sharippa is a good guy. But he used to book a Vegas club. Years ago, before he went into acting. Another guy, when I heard it was Sharippa, I knew him a little bit from stand. Did you know him from stand-up at all?
No, I never did the Riviera. That's what it was, right?
I went out to
Never
do that
did.
once when I was living in L.A. And I said, when I heard Sharippa got a part, I said, there's no way this guy can act. And then, of course, he can act. It's like Scorsese.
Well, what do you think everybody said about Van Zandt?
Yeah, well, I know.
You know?
Like, what is the story behind? Do you know any story about how that came about?
I know I knew the story.
Chase
now
is a Bruce fan, I assume.
I don't remember, I don't remember the...
I know Chase is a Springsteen fan, but who did? Yeah, I mean, he really... And
He's
he
amazing.
Goes, and he goes for that character, too.
Oh,
That's
he's so good.
Yeah.
But honestly... people say, why don't you write a book? Why don't you do that? There was no, gossip, no bullshit. And the little stuff there is, I would never say, because I love their family. It really is that like unconditional love that you only have for family. I have for people like James, where if James ever did do anything wrong, I would love him for it.
Yeah,
not that he ever did. He's the best.
And you would never rat on him. People, I said about Howard too. People always, I'm like, there's no smoking gun there, man. Like 8.5 years, he was always with Beth in a serious relationship. The 8.5 years I was there, I never remotely, even in a strip club, saw him do anything close to cheating on her. I never saw him, there's no fucking
Gumar.
Yeah, there's no story. I go, literally, you would go, it's boring. I don't have a book about it.
But the other thing that I always say is, how long can you be an asshole on a show where someone gets killed every 3 episodes?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to come in?
The mob.
I want a fucking bigger camper. Yeah, well, look at the next script.
Yeah,
it was a great way of keeping everyone in line. If anybody was going to get out of line.
On Family Ties, you could be an asshole. Because
right.
if someone dies, it's a major tragedy.
Yeah, right.
I did hear that about the end of Family Ties. People forget how big of a show that was, but the last one, there was an option that they came up with where they all die in a plane crash. And I said, well, that sounds right to me. But, again, well, listen, I mean, acting, do you go out for movies and stuff? I mean, do you?
I literally at 22 we finished Sopranos, and I was like, I'm going to take a year off, and that turned into 8 years of me just partying and being an idiot. And,
well, but that means you also were happy with yourself too. You didn't need to prove anything.
Well,
else,
I was in a sense of like, if you said, you know, there were 1,000 people in a room who liked me and 1,000 people in a room who didn't like me, like, it doesn't really matter to me, you know, like, of course you want people to like you, sure, but if people don't, it's just you get over it very fast in a day and age where you meet so many people who are like, you suck, you this, what are you going to go home and cry about that every night? Like,
especially Twitter, it makes you have a thicker skin.
I've never tweeted in my life, and I'm so, you know,
good for you. That's great. That really means you're a well-adjusted person. I really think that means that.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot my phone. I had a gig up in northern Connecticut at a theater, a one-nighter, and my guy Timmy, who takes me out on the road, my road manager, picked me up, and about 10 minutes into the ride, I realized I forgot my phone. And he goes, you want to go back again? And I'm like, no, this feels great.
Yeah.
I feel great not having my fucking phone.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do a stand-up gig. I'll be on stage. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to see what Artie's bloated liver's writing on Twitter.
Yeah.
I just feel, it felt so liberating not to have my fucking phone for 4 hours.
I tried to do a thing for you know, I used to sleep with my phone next to my head, and I would light up, I would get it, and I need to know, and then, you know, they say it's like a drug, you know, because you see...
these kids nowadays, I don't know how they don't... they don't seem to ever get away from the screen. The speed which people retweet me sometimes, I'm like, they got to be like, okay, he did something.
Right.
2 seconds, they favored it.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's crazy. Like, are they at a wedding going, he tweeted something?
Right, yeah.
And that's me. What happens when,
they're in their basement.
Right, exactly.
Tweeted something.
I mean, what happens when the fucking, you know, the lead singer of fucking One Direction tweets something?
Right.
With those fucking guys.
I found myself I was at the Vegas airport, and I couldn't stop taking pictures of fucking weirdos and tweeting them out. It was like, because I got there an hour early,
right?
And I'm like, they're just fucking people that look like they lost their fucking sleeping on fucking floors.
The
it's
1
just
a.m.
great.
the Southwest flight at 1 a.m. from Vegas to L.A. In the 6 years I lived in Los Angeles, I probably took that a million times. And there's a Burger King right there where I've had a million Whoppers.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
You're hoping they're serving breakfast sometimes.
Right.
I know what you're talking about.
And there's also, of course, it's Vegas, slot machines in the.
Yeah.
So those slot machines at 12:30 when you're waiting for that plane and you're hungover and down 80 grand, those slot machines are like the devil scraping your ear with a chainsaw. It's like, I can't listen to those fucking slot machines.
I don't even know why
Ding, 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 ding. And you look over and it's a woman with a colostomy.
And when I turned 21, you could smoke, because I went to Vegas with like 10 of my friends for my birthday.
Yeah.
We were sitting in the airport.
Chicken.
We got out of the plane, and there was a car waiting for all of us, and we saw the fucking slot machines where you could smoke, and that killed like an hour and a half. Like, we're just sitting there pumping money in, you know?
Just as long as you gamble, they're doing a barbecue a chicken. What do they give a shit?
Yeah.
Light your friend on fire. I don't care.
Right.
You want to double down?
Yeah.
When you did see the Fame thing very early, you saw the highest level of it for television, for sure, at an early age. You know.
Well, I always say, if you're ever feeling down about yourself, I could just take that ferry right there over here, and it's the fucking great. People in Jersey are like no one else with this show. Like, it's because the thing is, like, if you go to if somebody recognizes you in New York, it's because they saw the show 8 years ago. They haven't seen it since, but they're like, I think that's him. In Jersey, they were watching it last night. Like, they really is.
It's I think my buddy has that and the Pope of Greenwich Village on a loop, a constant loop.
That's so true.
But listen, again, I am one of those guys because I literally grew up. Well, my mother right now, her condo is around the block from the house, the exterior they use for the house and The Sopranos. Halston's, every reference. The first season, Michael Imperioli shoots a guy at a bakery on Franklin Avenue in Nutley. I got bread there that morning.
Yeah.
You know? So it really, it's more fascinating to me, I guess, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's guys, I know guys with, all the cast members' faces on shirts, like big.
There's a guy who has a tattoo of me.
Yeah,
Listen, you have a tattoo of The Sopranos, it's like, oh, you're a big fan. If you have a tattoo of me,
That's insane.
like, it's that's crazy.
I have a few of those guys. I've seen they have tattoos of me on their arm or on their stomach, and I go, like, how far down the list was Carmen Electra?
But see, at least you're like, if you show the picture of you and somebody says, well, who's that? Oh, this guy Artie, he's a drinker, he smokes, he does fun. Like with me, it's like this pussy from this TV show who cried all the time.
But they do respect your acting, though. I mean, your acting was really stellar on that show.
Thank you.
It really was, yeah. That's hard to fucking do, man. January? You should have got an Emmy for shooting that in January. Did you ever get nominated for an Emmy?
No.
Okay. Well,
nothing.
listen, man, that's last year. Something should have happened because God, January. Like I'm gonna rewatch it today. Going January.
Yeah, it was fucking cold, man.
This is how much people love The Sopranos. Like I do Tony Soprano's voice on my podcast a lot. People constantly tweeting me, dude, you should do a podcast. It's just all Tony.
Yeah.
I'm like, no one's
That'll work.
No one's listening to that.
Right.
No, well, I mean, they're passionate about it, but I get Ed Torian. That's what they say.
All Tony. That's it.
You should
I'm
talk
like,
as Ed Torian.
What was
I do him giving movie reviews. That's about it.
Well, yeah. Did you call Amoroso?
Did you ever call Amoroso a nigga? She's being deceptive. She did. Let me see. She never fucked Bob Saget, but she did call Amoroso a nigga. She's attracted to you. She's had a digit in her ass.
The best is you would say things to him like, do you like champagne? And he'd be like, have you ever been gangbanged? Like, and you'd be like, what?
Well, he
like,
always made stuff more racist. It was the
yeah, that's
Did you
right.
ever sleep with a black guy? You ever sleep with and he'd catch himself. You ever sleep with a black, an African guy?
A color.
Howard said that's
man.
not. I'm not even exaggerating a little. Howard said, ask her if she ever slept with a black guy. Anyway, did you ever sleep with a colored guy? A colored guy.
Oh man, he was the best.
Yeah, I'd like to do a short film as him. But the one time he came,
And he couldn't hold a conversation, but they were like, yeah, he's the number one guy, and all like that. And they'd be like, right, and he'd be like, he couldn't even answer.
I don't know what to do here. I gotta take a shit. Tell Gary, can I shit me out? I got.
He would mess up the answer, just everything.
Well, he would come in with the paper.
Yeah. Oh, let me see.
Okay, now let me see. Did she sleep with the guy from Limp Bizkit? No, I don't know that one. You asked it. I don't have that.
Or he would point and show Howard, and he'd be like, it's a line on a paper. I don't know what that means.
He goes, let me check that with my figures. His figures. Yeah, I love that guy. I have an affection for that guy. I love
and they can't figure out a better way to do that. The paper was like 33 feet long, trailing into the room.
It looks like a Jerry Lewis movie. When he comes in with the fucking, it looks like he's trying to do slapstick.
Yeah.
This is Ed Torian doing Jerry Lewis as a fucking lie detector guy. Well, listen. Honestly, I'm on the Hudson River. People, just come over anytime you want to hang. If you want to talk, you want to bullshit. Come on the show, plug something, whatever. Please come by, man.
Yeah, I would love to whenever.
Yeah. I'm happy you're doing good, Robert. I really am. You're a good guy.
Thank
you. And
are you doing good? What's going on? How are you?
Listen, I'm doing well. First of all, professionally, everything's going great, and I'm having the most fun I ever had in my life doing this show. I've never been uncensored like this before, and I went to a doctor's appointment, and I got a clean bill of health from a doctor.
Yeah.
They're always so surprised, like, wow, I don't know. But we should talk sometime.
Yeah. My dream would be to get comfortable enough on this show to where I just sat there and didn't say anything. That's what I want to do.
Absolutely.
I fucking, I'm a huge fan of yours. Yeah, exactly. I envy you. I'm sitting here just wishing I was you.
Well, listen, you could be Joe or me. But anytime you want to come by, honestly. Robert,
thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
Can I yell at you as Tony?
Yeah. Please, go ahead.
He pulled a fucking scene here. But I don't know if
he doesn't want to do a scene.
We're not going to do a scene.
I'll listen to you do a scene.
But I'll fucking do the scene, and then I'll just see if you remember these. We'll just fucking yell at you. Filato pulled this. What is this the scene of, Dan?
It's The Sopranos, I think.
I know. I love that it says Anthony Tony Soprano.
It's Will and Grace. It's an episode of Will and Grace.
Yeah, this is Gandolfini did an arc on Will and Grace.
Yeah.
He wanted you to get a job. He smashes the car.
Smashes the helmet into the car. But
you can't do the scene.
We don't have to do it. Yeah, don't put Robert through that. He's a friend of the show. Come back anytime. Do you have anything you want to plug? You're not on Twitter.
I hate
That's great.
hearing people plug stuff. I'll just thank you.
Joe, what do you got? What do we got?
We're still. It's all Twitter. We're going all Twitter.
Where are you with me? To Valley Forge, right?
Valley Forge on the 28th
Casino outside of Philly.
November.
Valley
Saturday.
Forge Casino outside of Philly, November 28th.
But I'm almost up to. I'm trying to get this thing to. I'm at 11,000 now. I keep wanting to get like 20,000.
Well, you hit 10,000.
At the Joe Matarese. Follow me on Twitter.
And tonight I'm with Gilbert Gottfried at the Well, people won't even hear that, right? We're doing a live podcast, me and Gilbert at Caroline's for a live audience. If you hear this before then, check it out. Otherwise, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Later. And High Pitch Mike is on tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
He's coming in, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll go over our fun arguments.
Just so the fans know, he wouldn't let me do a scene. Don't think I didn't fucking know.
No, of course not. I'm not gonna
make
put
him
Robert
do a
through.
scene.
What's he
It'd be
Z100
hilarious.
morning
He
zoo?
shows up and we're like, dude, we're gonna do the whole pilot.
This is Cubby Maurice.
Talk to you tomorrow. Later.
The Artie Lang Uncensored Podcast.
She's being deceptive. Let me check that with my figures. His figures.
At artiequitter.com.
There was a casino in Newark, but that's why in one of the episodes that you were at Gandolfini talks about he gives Buscemi the casino. He says you can have the casino, and they were all above delis in Newark. You know, I used to go play roulette and craps when I was like 18, 17 years old at this place on Stamford Avenue.
So what, no fucking ZD now? Hey!
That's interesting. Yeah, but Norm had a great joke on the ESPYs when Michael Jordan retired. He goes, Michael Jordan retired, that's bad news for basketball fans. And great news for golf hustlers. There's stories about Jordan losing like $150,000 on a golf game.
That's a great one.
And you always tell that story over. He's like, yeah, whatever scares you. Right?
Oh, yeah.
that's-
Whatever scares you. You know, those are all Frank jokes. Those type of jokes with that setup.
Right.
Like, Sebastiano wrote perfectly in his
The good
cadence.
news, the bad news.
Like the cadence
Yeah.
that Norm has, yeah. Norm always used to say the perfect joke would be where the setup is the same, almost the same as the punchline.
Like
So,
length of words.
well, yeah, no, even like subject matter. Like the closest he ever came to it was Lyle Lovett. Julia Roberts divorced Lyle Lovett. Remember she was married to that crazy country singer? And Norm, on Weekend Update, Frank wrote this joke where he said, this is the closest it ever came. He said, today Julia Roberts announced she's divorcing Lyle Lovett. When asked why, she said, because I'm Julia Roberts and he's Lyle Lovett. So that was like,
That is a perfect.
he thought that was the
That's
perfect. I know you're so close, man. You should, we do this 4 days a week. If you ever want to stop by and do anything, you know?
Whenever you want, I'll be here.
Do you act anymore? Or you just like, is it something you care about or?
I just started doing. I just got back into acting like a year ago, just doing this one TV show. But I hate talking about it because it's like every fucking actor you talk to like talks about the bullshit.
No, I know,
I'm
I
doing
know.
this show, and it's like
It's now with the amount of channels and stuff, it's like it's blown up. It's
yeah,
everywhere.
it's like this concept freaks me out. I don't even know how to perfectly say it, but like I don't understand how we're gonna keep existing with 9,000 channels, and all the time that we're talking, there's something playing on there, and that's
Yeah.
gonna keep going.
Right.
Like, how does that keep? How do we fill all these channels?
And the money's going to get more and more diluted. You're not going to get any. It's just
It's gonna be like Periscope. You're just gonna watch people like staring back at you, waiting for you to.
I think
reply.
eventually, if someone has enough of a following, like a celebrity, eventually they're just going to have a YouTube channel of their own. And everything they do, like what Louis does, kind of everything they do will just be put on that channel. Why even
Yeah.
fucking sell it anywhere? You
That's
know?
what my friend is doing right now. The kid who I did this show with, that I'm doing in LA.
Yeah.
He has like 3.5 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's
Right.
like, "Yeah, I take 6 months, I make a thing, I put it on there, and then you get
There's
paid."
no NBC show he would want to audition
How
for.
does he get
It makes no
paid?
sense, right?
How
Yeah.
did you
Yeah.
get paid just for filming it on YouTube?
Because what if you could guarantee, X amount of people will
Yeah,
view
YouTube
this,
pays
and
you,
you
right?
What's
put-
the deal
yeah,
with YouTube Direct?
advertisers? Or
You get like
I
a
don't
buck
remember.
a buck a person or something.
I mean,
How do
I
you
don't-
get checks from? How does that work?
Just with Google AdSense with the numbers and how many numbers.
So
you-
imagine if you had 3 million people, what they could charge for advertising.
What do you have now?
on what
YouTube?
My subscribers or on a video?
Subscribers.
You should have asked him that right after we said 3 million.
No, I've had one video that has over 3.
Like 800 people?
Downloads. I have one video that has 3.5 million downloads. I do.
Well, okay, well, which
but
one is that?
That's just this one where the whole crowd's trying to have.
Yeah, but there's
video
downloads.
show.
He's talking about 3 million people follow him.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
this guy. Yeah, he has 3 million subscribers.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm wondering if he's getting the money because of the hits, or does he get does he do a direct? Because I'm told that there's ways of streaming things on YouTube. Like YouTube might be cutting deals with people, just giving them a flat big fee.
Of
because
course
of
they
the
are.
rating.
I would think they would do that with famous people. Like Chris Rock probably gets offers like that, like a guy like that, a lot.
Right.
But people have like someone like him has an old school version of show business.
So what is this guy doing?
He was doing this thing called it was like an inside the actor studio thing, but with porn stars. And he was doing that, and he would just
Howard had that. What the fuck? Who's inside the Richard Christie used to do the porn star? Yeah.
Well, Josh Accardo's doing that web series with porn stars.
Yeah, I heard
with porn stars where he has them play legit actors.